Hello and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners in all stages of their running careers about their first marathon experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's episode is one of those stories that reminds you how long a dream can quietly sit with you before it finally shows up in your life in a very real way. Annie is someone who had the idea of running a marathon planted in her head years before she ever truly learned how to run. What started as casual movement, shin splints, and a lot of frustration slowly turned into something deeper once she finally had the tools, the patience, and the support to understand how to run smart. Her story weaves through learning how to run the right way, falling in love with movement again, navigating injury and heartbreak when her first marathon attempt was taken away from her, and finding her way back with intention instead of urgency. This is also a story about community and timing, from the Peloton world to charity team training, from solo miles to finding a chosen family on Chicago's lakefront. Annie's first marathon didn't just happen on race day. It was built through years of listening to her body, learning her limits, trusting the process, and showing up again after it would have been easier not to. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Please welcome Annie. Annie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you this weekend and break down your marathon story. I know from your show notes that this has been a marathon was something you were thinking about for like 10 years. So I'm excited to kind of break down where that first came into your mind. But first of all, just thank you for coming on the show. I'm excited to have you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jazzed to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yay. Love it. All right, cool. Well, you know the drill. We always like to start from the beginning. So where did movement start? Where did running start? How did this journey kick off for you?
I feel like, if I'm being fully transparent, movement started fourth grade basketball at
Yeah.
St. Linus. Our parents were pretty supportive of whatever our interests were, and a lot of kids played sports, so we played basketball. I did not play basketball in high school because it was very much the choice of, do I want to do choir and singing and music classes or basketball? And
Yeah.
I knew at that point I wasn't probably going to get on the high school basketball team, but that I was a pretty decent singer. So I kind of was like, okay, we're going to do music. And movement was like sort of not really existent. I mean, I do what I needed to do, but it wasn't
Sure.
like, I'm going to go run or I'm going to, like, we would ride our bikes. Like, it was a fun movement, was an activity. It wasn't like any sort of chore. And in my senior year of high school, because there's PE requirements,
Mm-hmm.
I took a class that was sort of circuit training focused, and it inquired like lifting and running and other forms of activity. But I went to an all-girls high school, so it was already kind of this environment of, we were all just comfortable with each other. We weren't impressing each other. And I really loved that class. I fell in
Yeah.
love with that kind of training. I was at that time in the best shape of my life. And then, after school, I'd be like, okay, I feel like moving some more. I have energy to burn. So I'd like go run a couple blocks. And it was probably just shy of a mile, half of a mile in total. And I did it
Yeah.
a lot and I loved it. And then I got chronic shin splints.
Oh, no.
Because
Yeah.
because no one tells you what to do when you're like,
Right.
I'm going to go run. You just go. And so
Full
you're not
speed.
using form. You're not
Right.
using anything that we've learned in time. And so then I stopped. And then in college, it was like, I'll go to the gym. And you'd go to the gym and I'd do whatever. I'd dilly dally on the elliptical and I'd
Yep.
do other things. And here and there between undergrad and grad school, I would move, and every so often I'd be like, I'm going to go for a jog. And I'd go out and I would be miserable. Miserable. Again,
Yeah.
you're just going. You have no idea what you're doing. You're walking, you're huffing, puffing. You have no clue why it's so hard.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years after grad school, I had a bad breakup and I was like, I'm going to run. And I signed up for 5K and I did trained
Yeah.
did not follow a training plan, didn't know anything like about running,
Sure.
and then was like, I'm a 5K runner, I'm a runner. And this is like 2017, and that was, I think, the first time I had also said, like, I'm gonna run a marathon, I want to do this.
So you went right from 5K to like, I'm doing this. I'm fully committed here.
And the goal was like I was like, I'm going to give myself 5 years. I was like, I am
Mm.
in good earnest time. Like, I'm going to learn how to run. I'm going to do this. And even then, it had been in the back of my mind. Like, at 2017, like, I had felt like this calling, I guess, for lack of any better purpose or term. Like, I think I'm supposed to run a marathon. And
Mm.
I guess I don't really know where that came from or how it came about, but I was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
It's like 3 or 4 5Ks, which were all like mediocre at best performance because again, I wasn't like doing what I needed to do. And then it slowly fell to the wayside. And then in 2020, as we have all found different outlets in the pandemic, I was a Peloton person. I
Yeah.
had always loved spin classes, sort of the later end of like once I stopped running, I really fell into spin. I went to Soul Cycle, I went to Cycle Bar. But the annoyance was that I always had to fit it into my schedule.
Mm.
So when I mentioned singing in high school, I'm actually a freelance musician. I
Oh,
have a day
cool.
job, but I'm a classical singer by
Very
trade.
cool.
So, I was always working and spin around rehearsals or after work. And then you get home at 8 o'clock and you're like, I don't even want to eat dinner. Like it's so late.
Yeah.
So Peloton had actually kind of been on my radar pre-pandemic because I had seen advertisements. I liked that I could do it in my home and then bit the bullet like 10 million other people and got the bike and fell in love with it and really fell in love with movement. I feel like when I listened to Ariel's story, I was like, wow, me and Ariel have a similar story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I met so many people through the Peloton community. I really kind of went all in. Like Instagram was a huge place where people were communicating at the time. I made Peloton friends, and quite a few of them were runners. And I kind of said to myself, after maybe almost a year, it was like half a year to a year on doing the bike, that I was like doing strength and other modalities, but not running. And I thought, well, I've learned so much from these spin instructors, and I'm actually learning fundamentals of cycling and not just like going by feeling. I'm getting metrics. I know how hard I'm working. Maybe I need someone to teach me how to run.
Mm.
Maybe I've always been miserable because I simply don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And they have the You Can Run program, and that's the cool thing about Peloton. One of the cool things about Peloton in my mind is that they have ways of teaching people modalities that you don't have to just try something blindly. They will instruct you through it.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, the outdoor content really wasn't what it is. So I did the tread program outside.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So there were some cues that only made like partial sense to me because, it wasn't the same as RPE. But in many ways it was. They were cueing off of RPE.
Mhm.
But I did the You Can Run program and I said, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to see if it happens or not. We're going to see if I get those shin splints. We're going to see if I'm uncomfortable. And it clicked for the first time because
Mm.
I was learning everything that no one ever tells you when you're 17 going out for a run. I learned cadence. I learned rhythmic breathing. I learned how to hold your body. No one tells you when you go out for a run at 17 to tuck your hips. And
Mhm.
unless you're like naturally inclined to do those things, you're not going to do them because you don't know. So then when everything lines up, it's not miserable, it's
Yeah.
enjoyable. And I completed the program and was fully invested. And the program takes you 8 weeks, essentially from zero to running for 30 minutes nonstop. I did that and I just really kind of like married the process. I did the classes when I was supposed to, I did other forms of training, and I loved it. And that's like my journey into running. And so then I really kind of took off from there and started signing up for races with that new intention of like, I actually know what I'm doing this time. And I actually
And
think that if
enjoying
I,
it.
and
Y-
enjoying it
Yeah.
and knowing like, oh, perhaps there's a training portion where I don't just go run a 10K. Maybe I do other things. So then, I was doing 5Ks. The Shamrock Shuffle in Chicago is one of the biggest races, and it's actually the kickoff to race season in Chicago. Um, it's one of the most popular national 8Ks because there aren't many vetted 8Ks.
Right.
So I did a Shamrock Shuffle. That was my first sort of foray out of 5K into distance. 8K is just shy of 5 miles for anyone who doesn't know that. And then I did pretty decent at that. Like I really enjoyed it, and had kind of started moving into other distance areas. The year that I had really started falling into a good rhythm too, I got my first like injury. I had an
Mm.
accident at home, and what we thought was probably just an ankle sprain ended up being torn
Oh no.
partially torn ligaments. Pretty much every ligament in my ankle was either torn or sprained or
Oh,
strained. Uh,
brutal.
my physical therapist said it was the worst MRI he's ever seen
Oh
of
my
an
gosh.
ankle,
Yeah.
and that like it would have been better if I broke it.
Oh my gosh.
So I spent 6 weeks in a boot and 3.5 months in PT, and then it was like, I have to run. I have to do this.
Because
Like
no movement in there, right? Like at all. Like I'm assuming maybe you could do like upper body stuff, but you weren't
I
scratching that itch of cardio or anything like that.
no, and when you're not doing the thing you love, why would I do upper body? I would like
Right.
do it occasionally. And again, it wasn't the same because I was like willing myself to do it. And
Right.
then the PT that I know and love offers a return to run program, which is really, really good. I've used it twice now, spoiler alert. It got me in a really great place. At that time, too, I had started a pretty significant weight loss path, which I'm still on, but really in a good place now. So running also became very different because at that point, then I was starting to edge like 30 to 40 pounds lighter than what I had been when I first started running, and it just
Mm.
felt different. There's no right or wrong body for running, and I want to make that very clear, but the way I moved was very different.
Yeah.
And there was always a freedom with running, but now it came with an ease I hadn't experienced before. Like there was ease when I learned how to run, and then once some of my significant weight started coming off, it was, oh wow, it's really different now. That's when I went. Shamrock Shuffle was, I think, my first race back at that point. Uh, Went a lot better than the first time I did it. And then I was like, cool, 10K, let's go. Did a 10K. And that same year, I was also like, we're doing a half marathon. Like we're gonna start really edging things up. So I had really started getting into a good groove with wanting to do distance and things like that. I did my first half marathon in May of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I had also registered for the Chicago Marathon, and I was running
Okay.
with
I was
charity.
gonna say when's the marathon coming back into the story? Because I know that
Marathon's
was
coming
something
back.
that was
Yeah.
that was on your mind for a long time. Yeah.
Was on my mind for a long time and continued to be on my mind. But what I had really dedicated to was I will know when it's time to level up.
Right.
And I'm not going to make a decision that is going to be detrimental to getting there the way I wanted to,
Yeah.
which was really, I'm going to know when I'm ready. And so I was intending to run the 2024 Chicago Marathon. I ran a great first half marathon in May. It was awesome. I had a great day. I did the Lifetime Spring Chicago Half, which is
Hmm.
a super fun race. If people
I've never
ever
heard that
want
one. Yeah.
um, like a Chicago-based half marathon, the Lifetime series is great. They do a spring and a fall half marathon. The spring's great. It's a beautiful route on the lakefront, and they finish with like brunch and little flowers you can take home.
Oh,
And it's
cute.
just there's a sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Also those medals are huge. It's like a Flava Flav clock. And I was really in a great place. I was really down a significant amount of weight at that point. We're talking like 60 to 70 pounds. I was
Wow.
at that point in the best shape of my life. And then about 3 to 4 weeks after that half is when I started marathon training. I was doing a charity run with a team that isn't like it's one of the many charity teams, and they offered either coaching through I think it was Chicago Endurance Sports,
Hmm.
or you could do a virtual coach. And I did the virtual coach just because I have a run club, and I was like, I'll do some training with my run club girls, and then I'll do long runs by myself if they don't want to come with or whatever. And it was interesting doing it by myself because I really had committed to this thing for me. So in many ways, it was kind of that love language to myself of I'm doing this amazing thing that I want to do, and I don't need other people to be involved with it. And then I got about 7 weeks into training before I had to withdraw. And what happened was is that many things. I did not do enough strength training, and there had likely been enough muscle wasting through my weight loss that my muscles didn't have time to catch up, especially after my half marathon. But um, I developed bad hip pain, and it actually just kept getting worse. And there's that moment in your head which I think many runners describe to, where you have to discern if it's an injury or if it's discomfort.
Right.
And that discernment is like, I think, never ending for us. I think we're always
Yeah.
going through those things. Um, but it had started as like a nag, and then it just kind of progressively got more naggy and more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the Saturday long run, when I knew it was over, was a 12 miler. And I was in excruciating pain. And I was like 3 miles from home. And I was like, well, you can turn around or you can keep going. And the narrative I gave myself was, you're going to be in pain during the marathon. So buck up, sister, and get used to what pain feels like and get comfortable with pain. Well, the 12 miler turned into 10. It was miserable. I mean,
Yeah.
I was miserable, and I was walking a lot. And when I wasn't walking, I was probably a full 2 minutes slower than even my easy run pace. I just wasn't happy. And I got home and I took my ice bath, and I thought, something is not right.
Yeah.
Something is
It's
wrong.
like you do get a little bit of a gut feeling. I think even when you're newer, you might not recognize it as much when it's
hmm
the first time that it's happening, but I know what you're talking about. You have that feeling that's like something's not right.
And it was that, this is not discomfort. I think I'm injured.
Yeah.
Um, the timing could not have been better because I just started a new job and insurance didn't kick in for a month.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So not only could I not get evaluated beyond the free Athletico evaluation, I couldn't do the care I needed until I had had the insurance kick in. So things
Mm.
like an X-ray or MRI or whatever I would have needed were then delayed by a month. And I had known too at that point, like I took the time off very seriously. I said, I am not running,
Mm.
period. If I'm in pain, I am not running. And after 3, 4 weeks, I knew the marathon wasn't going to happen. Um, my current job of day job, not singing, is I work with physical medicine and rehabilitation
Oh,
doctors.
cool.
I'm in association management, so I work in membership for them, but physiatrists are the coolest doctors in the world, I think. And I thought, well, I couldn't be in a better place. I'm going to go see who's in my medical group in Chicago and book with them. And then I sent an email that was like, hey, I'm your membership manager. By the way, I just made an appointment with you.
Yeah.
Haha. And I gave my backstory, and I said, what can I do in advance of this appointment that will make this, good for me?
Yeah.
And she was grateful that I reached out in the way that I did, because she said, go get an x-ray. That way it's done and we can look at it when we do your exam. And it was pretty bad hip bursitis with
Yeah.
glute tendinopathy and a hip flexor strain. Um,
Mm.
and I remember being in her office, and it was like early September, and she was like, yeah, I'm really sorry you're not running the marathon.
Oh,
And
gosh, I'm sure that was crushing.
it was, but I had also in many ways already negotiated that with myself.
Right, right.
Like, I knew it wasn't happening, but then the the finality of that and the grief of that was really profound.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and that is, I took all that time off, and that's really when I started taking a break from movement, and I started PT right away. She gave me a diagnosis for all those things, and then said, okay, now you go to PT, and do you want to use Rush, which is the medical group I work with, or do you have someone? And I was like, well, wouldn't you know, I have someone. And I texted him because we're friends now, and I said, guess what? We're getting the band back together. And he said, what did you do? Um, because he knew I was training for the
Right,
marathon.
right.
And I told him, and we started working together right away. I slipped into the worst depression of my life.
Yeah.
And I think that that shouldn't come as a surprise to many people, but I think for those of us who love running and love the sport and have learned to love distance, having that huge thing get taken away from you again was just so detrimental to my mental health. I wasn't
Yeah.
getting out of bed. I was going to PT. I went to every single PT appointment, but again, I wasn't the same person I was before. I was so determined to run a marathon. I
Yeah.
knew it was for me. It is in my bones. Again, I can't tell you where this came from. I think we get callings in life and voices, and I think we have to listen to them. I'm
Yes.
very serious about that, whether you consider that sign from the universe, divine intervention, whatever you believe in. If you are being told you should do something, do it and find a way.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
have marathon runners in my family. I don't know where it came from. I signed up for the 2025 Chicago Marathon while I was in PT.
Yeah.
I remember being in PT and looking at my physical therapist and saying, "Am I nuts for doing this? Am I going to be okay by then? Like what are we looking at here?" And he was like, "You can do this. You're supposed to do this. We'll get there. Sign up. Like I believe in you." So I
Yeah.
did. And I signed up with a charity again, but a very different charity than before. The charity that I had running with before, I had a bad experience when I had to
Mm.
withdraw. They
Mm.
didn't cancel my bib. And so I was getting like the packet pickup notification,
Oh,
and it really added insult to injury,
right.
because I was proud of the team, and I thought it's a wonderful organization. I also finished my fundraising pretty fast, and I like did not get much acknowledgement for that. So there's many
Mm.
layers.
Yeah.
But when I was training independently, 2024, I would often see a team training together on the Chicago lakefront. And I saw them multiple times running together, talking, enjoying. I remember one run where there were coaches on the side saying, "Take a gel, you've been doing this for this time." And they were cheering for each other. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. I think that's what training's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And ironically, I knew other people who trained on that team, and I'm very proud to say that it's Team to End AIDS. And so I knew that that was the team I was going to pick for 2025 because I had experienced observation of what even one day, 2 days was going to be like with them. I wanted
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And so I signed up right away. I did the thing. And it was terrifying too, because I didn't want to announce that I was doing it again, because then you're setting yourself up for, oh gosh, well, now people have already given to me and it failed. And by
Right.
failed, I mean I got injured, something out of my control. That's
Right.
not failing. I worked very hard to get up to a 12-mile long run, and I'm very proud of that. But then there was that, there's donor fatigue. There's a lot of things happening in the world, and so I also knew that there was this. I'm going to have to work harder for fundraising this time because I've already done it, and um, but this time it was a different experience altogether. I know people who live with HIV,
Mm.
and I know people who've been affected by the AIDS crisis. And so I could speak to that in my
Mhm.
fundraising. I could speak to my other fundraiser too, plenty.
Sure.
But this
Sure.
one was personal in a very different way. Um, and I committed to like that narrative and also my comeback narrative. I finished fundraising for the Chicago Marathon 2025 in like 72 hours,
Dang. Good for you.
which was nuts. So I was like,
Huge.
oh, huge. And I announced on Giving Tuesday. I I was very calculated. I'm in a past life a former nonprofit fundraiser. I
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of
This is
had
your
an
world.
idea of what I wanted to do and
Right.
how I wanted to do it and how I could talk to people in a way that was compelling. I think it helps to have a cause that you care about and
100%.
that you can speak to. And what I learned through that was that there are many people in my life who are affected by the HIV and AIDS crisis. And it's something that no one talks about. No
Yeah.
one talks about it. We have like decided that it was in the late 80s and early 90s and now it's
Yes.
done. Um, that's not the case. And so people would give to me and say, my best friend, my colleague, my blah, blah, blah. I met so many people who lost people to AIDS and
Mm.
had family and friends who lived with HIV, that it really spoke to people, and that it made that much more serious for me, that I was now carrying people with me. I took that very seriously. And I didn't stop fundraising once I hit the goal. I was very much if
Let's
people
keep it going.
continue, let's keep it
Yeah.
going. I'm not going to stretch the goal to have, okay, let's do more. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
let's go beyond what my goal is.
Yeah.
I raised over 1,000 over my goal, but then
Very cool.
training started in June. At that point, I was fully healed. Again, terrifying because it's like, okay, what's going to happen? Is either
Yeah,
shoe
you're
going to drop
starting
again?
over. Exactly.
Starting
Exactly.
over. And I had continued and finished PT, and then I knew that my PT facility also offers a weight loss program, but they offer personal training.
Mm.
So I could stay with them, these people who knew my hangups, knew what I did not want to do in PT that I did begrudgingly, knew all these things, knew my body, my physiology, and could then train me.
Mm.
I'm not going to go to a random gym and sign up with a trainer I've never met before. These people are
Yeah.
willing to train me. So I added personal training once a week. I really kind of stuck with, I'm going to do strength training. And then I did a diligent training plan. The Team to End AIDS provides a weekly
Okay,
training
cool.
plan, and it's like a 16 or 18-week training plan. And I also have a coach who is my best friend, and so she worked with that plan, and we kind of married the two in a way
Yeah.
that would work. Team to End AIDS offers 4 group runs a week. You could do all four
Wow.
of your runs together with your
That's awesome.
teammates. It's so cool.
Yeah, because I
Um,
hear the long run, the weekend long runs, and some groups will have a speed day that to teach speed training.
mhm.
But four is like unreal. That's great.
Yeah, they did tempo runs together, track workouts, like Monday maintenance, and then the Saturday long run.
Very
Um,
cool.
I did my own stuff throughout the week and committed to the long run just because, like, I have my run club on Wednesdays. I could add to that as I needed to and work with my coach on what we thought was a realistic plan for me too. Again, we married them. We weren't straying super far, but like for speed workouts, I did them at home. I have a full Peloton home gym. Like the treadmill is not a scary thing for me because I have the Cadillac of treadmills.
Yeah.
I love it, but also I'm not running at 90 degrees unless I have to.
Yeah.
There's decisions we make. It's -2 in Chicago right now. I ran on
Yeah.
my treadmill this morning. You
As you
don't
should.
get a gold star for wearing 8 layers.
Right. Right.
You don't.
Especially in Chicago, it's like there's a whole other level to training when you're training in Chicago. It's like there's injury risk, there's slip, like when it gets
Mhm.
icy. I 100% agree. There's make your own decision. Obviously, there's runs that I'm sure it's good to push outside, but yeah, it's unreal.
Well, and that's what happened this summer.
Hmm.
I'd say at least half of our Saturday long runs were miserable.
Yeah.
But I did all of my long runs with the team on Saturdays. Every Saturday I'd show up at Foster Beach at either 8, 7, or 6 a.m. It would get earlier the hotter the summer months went. The team had tents set up, and we'd have anywhere from like 20 to 50 people at those team group runs. Everyone would wear their shirts or their singlets. Everyone would warm up together. We would go out with your pace group, and you would come back. And they had coolers of Gatorade and pop and water and chips and snacks. And we had yoga after, or stretching, or jump in
Wow.
the lake. This was the best summer of my life. And I say that with zero exaggeration. It taught me so much about myself and so much about other people. And getting to train with people I had otherwise never met before and wouldn't know, uh, was so fundamental to my growth as a runner. Just runners of all backgrounds and ages, and people who are brand new, and people who've been running for a very long time. What is special about Team to End AIDS is that a lot of their runners are legacy with the team. They come
Mm,
back every year and fundraise
mm,
with the team. This is very much a chosen family.
yeah.
And so the first couple of runs are intimidating because like everyone knows each other, but
Sure.
everyone also wants to know and love you. And I learned that very quickly. People celebrate each other and celebrate wins. And it was so unique and rare, I feel, for charity teams that this is the experience. And I remember some runs being very memorable because of how miserable they were.
Hmm.
It was a very muggy, humid, hot summer in Chicago. I would say that at least 60% of our long runs, it was at least 80 degrees when we
Ugh,
started
yeah.
and at least 72 dew point. Like it was humid. It was like running
Just
in
gross
hot
runner. Yeah.
soup. It was soup. I
Yes.
remember, I think it was ironically the 12th miler where I was running with one of my teammates, JD, and we were miserable. And we were talking each other into just getting to the next part where we were like, you want to run to that water fountain? And then we could take a walk break. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, negotiating with each other.
negotiating
Yeah.
again, super slow pace that day. And I think we
Right.
trauma bonded during that run
Yeah.
of like, okay, this is terrible. But we got through some really like hellish days in the weather. And I guess the perk to that was it's not going to be like this on October, whatever.
Hmm.
It's going to be better. And I remember there was one weekend I was sick, and it was, I think, the 17 miler. I couldn't go with the team, and I was like so bummed. I was so excited to go out with them. At that point, these were all my longest runs ever. And I went out the next day by myself. I had teammates texting me and messaging me and posting to cheer for me and tagging the team
Oh, that's so sweet.
the whole run. So I was getting notifications from my teammate the whole time. Like, again, that doesn't happen with other charity
No,
teams. This is a
that's
very rare,
huge.
unique experience, and that was the best run of my training cycle. I got like a crazy negative split on that run. My 16, 17, and 18 all took the same amount of time, which was wild to me that I was
Yeah.
able to do a progression on my 17 miler. And it was like, we weren't really doing that kind of stuff, but I thought, you know what? I'm by myself. I'm going to give myself the challenge and see where we're at. Is there
Hmm.
gas in the tank when I hit 9 miles? I thought that was a good threshold too to say, like, again, you're going to need to discern if there's gas in the tank and just keep going. Like, you're not walking off that course.
Yeah.
And I did. And I finished the 17 miler like 2 minutes faster than I started. It
Very
was
cool.
crazy.
Very cool.
We got to marathon day. We did it. We ran a marathon. It was, because I'm married, I have to say this, the second best day of my life. It it was it was the coolest experience. And it was funny because it had started warming up and it like really hadn't cooled down. And I remember like on Run Talk, we were all
Yes.
talking about like, should we hire an Etsy witch to like get the weather
Get the weather under
down?
control. Yeah, right.
Because it was looking like it was going to be like 70, 75
Yes.
on marathon
Yes.
day. And I think we were all kind of stressed, but our team directors were saying, you cannot plan for this. You have trained in the worst summer. If it's 75, you trained in 90 degrees. Like you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's perhaps not going to be the day you want it to be, but it will be the
Right.
day. By God's graces, it was cooler. Like maybe 5 days before it was like going to be, they were like, it's going to be like 65. And we were like, yeah,
It
that's a
was like
lot better
last
than
minute.
75. It was
It
last
was,
minute.
yes. I remember getting emails too, because I just like this was my mom's first marathon. This was my first world major, and I remember like I'm just thinking like I don't want this to be a bad experience for her. She lives in Oregon. Like I know she didn't train in this weather, And I
Mhm.
remember the week before they were sending out the like green, yellow, red, whatever the scale is that they use for weather, and it was like in the yellow, and I'm like, oh, okay, oh my gosh. And then I remembered, like you said, like 5 days out, it dropped. Like it went from yellow to green or somewhere in between, and I was like, okay, like let's breathe a little bit. But it really was last minute, which is a little scary.
It was last minute, and what was hard was so the Lifetime Fall Half Marathon was three
Yeah.
weeks or 4 weeks before, and I ran that because it was suggested. It was like we had a 13 miler anyway that weekend, and I was like, okay, I ran how many half marathons this summer? I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
medal for at least one of them. Hello. Um, and right before that half, I went out for like my Monday or Tuesday morning run. just to run in the neighborhood. Just,
Yeah.
I was starting to get into taper, obviously.
Yeah.
Rolled my ankle 30 seconds into the run.
No. No.
And the way I panicked.
I'm
And it
sure your
was
heart sunk when that you're like,
because
no.
not only was it an ankle, it was the ankle. It was the
Yeah.
ankle from 2022. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh no. And I remember having this thought in my head of see what you can do. Do not go there. See if you can get through the run. And it
Yeah.
was like maybe uncomfortable for 5 minutes. And I got through the rest of my run.
Yeah.
And then I texted my PT and I said, hey, so this happened and what do you think? I'm gonna come in. And I went in and I cried for 45 minutes on the PT bed, thinking, what happened? What is going to
Yeah.
happen? I'm terrified. How could I roll my ankle 3 weeks before the marathon? And the half was that weekend. And she was like, I will tape it today. I will come to your house and tape it on Saturday.
That's
you
so
can
sweet.
you can do this. So she did. I mean, she lived like 10 minutes from me, which is great. So she came over and she taped my ankle and she said, you're going to do this. And you're going to do the marathon. You are fine. And I remember in that PT session too, she was like, there's nothing wrong with your ankle. You rolled it and it was scary and you're fine. Like
Yeah.
there's no sprain. There's nothing
Right.
worrisome. That half marathon was hot. And that is a path that does not have much shade.
Mm,
Now, I wasn't doing that to run a half. It was very much a practice race day, right? I wore my
right.
gear, I brought my stuff, and I did my pace and I stuck to it. And it was fine. And I finished, and it was like hot as hell. And I would see like friends and people I knew on the course. And I think at one point, my friend Tabitha was like, you're doing great. And I think I screamed back, I hate this. I want to stop.
The heat'll do that.
Sure will.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, we did it. It's fine.
Yeah.
And actually the tape was cumbersome at that point too. I was like, I don't think I need the tape. I think we're gonna be good. Um, and then it was again a relief to have race day be a lot cooler because that half was like 75 direct sun, felt like 85.
Hmm.
Um, and the marathon was awesome. I guess there's nothing else I can say. So T2 has like a race day resort that we share with a couple other charity teams. There was breakfast, there was uh, communal time together, and each wave would leave at a certain time, and we'd all
Hmm.
cheer for them when they left, and
Cute.
then you'd hang out, and of course the groups dwindled, and we took our picture. And before every long run, there's a speaker. So someone from the team shares their story. And
Oh,
we
cute.
had
I love that.
a really great like last send off. And then I remember it was our turn and we went out, and I mean, I'm covered in glitter. I am
Love it.
covered in glitter, and
I love it.
I brought the glitter, so a lot of other people were covered in glitter, and it was
Yeah.
really fun. And I remember like walking out, and then once we had gotten to the corrals, I kind of got separated from some of my teammates, and like I thought that was fine because I had to use the bathroom one more time because
Hmm.
we panic pee.
Yes.
And I ran into a girl who I've never met before, and she's like, "Do you know where we're supposed to go for this corral?" And I was like, "Not really. You want to find it together?" And we stuck together from that moment to starting the race pretty much. Met a new friend, Delaney. I hope you had an awesome race day. She was so cute. She did not know anyone. And I was like, I know a bunch of people here, but I just got separated from them. So,
Yeah. So you're my new
um,
best friend. Welcome
new
to the
best
race.
friend. Um, and ironically, my best friend and coach and Ariel were also in my corral.
Oh, funny.
And I found them. Now, there are thousands of people in these corrals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Chicago is like 50,000 runners. So
Yeah.
you're talking thousands of people. So the fact that I found my best friend in my corral and then a whole swath of my teammates, I was like, "Oh, hey guys."
Yeah.
It made for such a calm start that I got to see my coach and my best friend. I got to see Ariel and hug them and say, "We're going to do this." And then we did it. And my race could not have gone better.
I love it.
I am very married to a couple things, like nothing new on race day
Yeah.
and start dramatically slower perhaps than you want to.
Yeah.
And I was telling people, I was like, you're going to think I'm moving backwards those first 3 miles. I will be so slow.
Yeah.
And I was very calculated. But I was pretty also set on having fun. I live in Chicago. This is a hometown race. It was going to be places and people I knew. And so I trained and ran without headphones. I was like, whatever the noise between these 6 inches, that's what we're running with. And it's interesting because the first 3 miles are pretty intense in terms of sound. Like there was that little rave
Yes.
underground, and
Yes.
then
Right.
it
Like
came
literally right away.
right away. There was a rave,
Yeah.
and then you're in downtown in River North.
Hmm.
And I remember it being a wall of sound. I mean,
Yeah.
a wall of sound, and being amazed that people around me had their headphones on. I was like, you can't possibly hear your music because
Yeah.
this is deafening to me and I don't have anything. And the race kept going well. I started then once I realized I had been out of that stretch where people often kind of go out too fast. I was like, okay, you made it. You didn't go out too fast. Do what you want. Don't be stupid.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I wasn't, and my mom and my husband and one of my best friends came and they followed me along the course. And one of the coolest things for me about Chicago was how many times I saw my friends or teammates who were also running on the course. I saw people constantly that I knew also running, and that was such a unexpected win that at one point, one of my teammates came up behind me and we took a selfie together, and it was like, oh my God, you're here? Like, this is great. And so we spent probably a couple blocks together. I saw Ariel at like mile 3. I saw one of my friends twice towards the beginning and then again around mile 20. And I knew it was her because I knew what she was wearing.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple girls from my run club, and one of them is a runner with Achilles, so she was a guide. And at mile 16, someone handed me a full-size ice cold Gatorade, and that was awesome because at that
Yeah.
point it was a little warm.
Yes.
It
No
warmed
shade too.
up, no shade.
Hmm.
Um, Spoiler alert, if you've never run Chicago, listeners, the back half of the course does not have shade. The
Mm-mm.
front half
Does
is nice and
not.
shady, lots of
Yes.
buildings, lots of good stuff. Back half is direct sun. And I remember grabbing the Gatorade and being jazzed because I had a Gatorade in my handheld. I trained all summer with endurance formula, so I knew that I was going to have what I had on the course and wanted to get my
Yeah.
tummy used to it. And there was a guy a couple feet from me, and he's like, "Oh, I want one of those." And I was like, "Dude, I have Gatorade. Let's split it." We split the Gatorade and spent like half a mile together just talking. And that was really nice because again, it was this moment of humanity and meeting new people, and everything I experienced over the summer I was experiencing in real time during the race.
Yeah.
And the timing of the race in Chicago is interesting because that's when ICE was in Chicago,
Hmm.
really terrorizing our communities. And I saw them twice during the course. I saw them
Yeah.
in a vehicle and I saw them on foot. And I could have allowed it to ruin my day. And instead, I kind of flipped them off and yelled and kept going. We have to do what we have to do for our activism in that moment.
Yeah.
And you make a choice. At about the halfway point, I was like, okay, see if you can just go a little bit faster. I wasn't necessarily aiming for a huge negative split. I kind of just wanted to have a great day, and whatever happened, happened. I knew the out and back was coming. I knew when
Yes.
it was. I knew where it was because that is where my run club cheers. We cheer there for a couple of reasons because it's the out and back and because that is when people are really hitting the wall. I mean, we're
Yes.
talking 22. That is
Yes.
when your brain is going, I don't think so, which I'm very lucky did not happen to me. I could not have had a better day, but I knew it was coming. So I was like, okay, don't get fucked up about this. Like, just keep going.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I had a girl at Run Club waiting with an ice cold Coca-Cola for me. So, like, there's a picture of me at mile 22, like, beaming. It's because she has the Coke in her hand.
Yeah. Just the life coming back to your eyes. You're like, all right, here we go.
I got this.
Yeah.
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 The Coke is my favorite long run treat. But I was smiling for most of the race because I was just having a blast.
Yeah.
And I got through the out and back okay. And at that point, you're like through then to 24 and you've got like 2 miles left. And I thought, girl, you have gas in the tank. I had kept
Such a good feeling.
going. It is such a good feeling, and it's a relief at that point.
Yeah.
And I kicked it up, and I kicked it up 30 to 50 seconds faster, and I finished the race really strong. And I knew Mount Roosevelt was coming too. And I knew that people go hard on Mount Roosevelt. And that's why it's lined with medics with wheelchairs, because everyone
Mm-hmm.
cramps because they're going up the only significant hill, and then they
Yes.
seize. And someone seized right in front of me. And I said, ah, ah, ah. So
Not
I had
today.
been, not today. I had been chugging, and I mean flying down Michigan at that point. And I turned and I said, back off for the hill, backed off, and then cut to the end, and I finished really strong. And that that was my first marathon.
I love it.
And I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is when we're talking about gas in the tank, what I did
Yeah.
not know and learned after is that I had about an 8-minute negative split
Hell yeah.
from front to end of the
Hell yeah.
marathon. It was the biggest negative split on T2, and wasn't the goal to have a huge negative split. The goal was to have fun and then work at the
Yeah.
end, and I did. And I did, and I
Yeah.
had a great day.
Well, what I love about your story, like anytime we hear a first marathon story like this, where it's just like start to finish, all good things happen. Like obviously, yes, love that. That is such an amazing first marathon story, and it's going to light a fire under you to like continue to do this. But what I also love about your story is it wasn't just like a good day. You ran really smart too, and I think sometimes for first marathons, like we don't always have the running IQ to run smart. And I don't want to go down a whole tangent, but we're in this world of marathoning where it's being very over glamorized, and people are training and going through their training plans very quickly and getting to race day feeling like they're like unprepared, honestly, and just going into it blind. But this was something that you planted a seed in your mind, like whether you knew you were going to do it or not. You planted this seed so early on, and you just kind of chipped away at it and like developed this long-term relationship with running that I think is so unique nowadays, that I feel like, I mean, that's what played a huge part in your story, is like you ran really smart, and I think that obviously paid off.
I did, and I have now really smart runners in my corner that I
Yeah.
turn to at every point in training. So as I mentioned, we're a Peloton family. Something I don't talk about with like I don't talk about it all the time because it's a silly thing even for us, is we're actually personal friends with an instructor. My husband and I, we're friends with Alex Karwoski, who is one of
Mm.
the rowing and tread instructors. Alex is a very dear friend. Alex was someone who was in my corner when I got injured, and then I spent a lot of time training with him in my ears or on the screen in front of me this summer. And what was unique about that is that I could then text him and be like, what the hell were you doing with that 2% incline at the beginning of the run? Or like,
Yeah.
that was an interesting playlist. And then he'd text me back. And that is a unique experience, right? Many
Yes.
people in this world don't have that connection to an instructor. And, when we get shout outs, it's fun. And it's like, that's my friend that I got to train with, who is this public figure. And it's very interesting. And it's a different experience. Alex ran like a 2:37:30 New York marathon. Alex runs
Damn.
a marathon significantly more than twice as fast as I do.
Yeah.
And it was never about that. And he is such a smart athlete, and so many of those coaches are smart athletes, but like when I learned how to run, it was learn smart, train smart, not hard, and then
Yeah.
kind of marry like what is hard. And I trained for the race I wanted. I did a
Yeah.
lot of run walk this summer because it was miserable. And I was
Yeah.
like, if I walk on race day, fine, don't care. If I don't, fine. I didn't take a single walk break during the marathon,
Yeah.
not one. I was in a groove. And part of that too is that I knew what would happen to my legs at that point.
Yeah.
Having done run walk over the summer, I knew what recovery I would need to get back into the run, and I just focused on having a good time. But yeah, I'm a Taurus, and I'm very calculated, and
Yeah.
so I can I can have the race I want. There was a 10K this summer that did not go to plan because I fell within the first
Oh
mile,
no. No.
and it was a negative split. But in a different way.
Yeah.
It was a PR race. I worked really hard for this PR. I had a plan. My coach was tracking me. She's like, I saw the first 5K and you were going a little hot. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to trust her. She said, and then you kept it up for the second half. And I thought, okay. And she said, and then I heard you fell and it all made sense. Like anything we
Yeah.
had talked about for our negative split went out the window. It was a
Yeah.
pretty hard run. And I was so angry from falling that and it was a 6.5 minute 10K PR. Like
Yeah.
kind of
Huge.
hard, a huge PR, but I was like bleeding. Like I got really bad road rash and I was pouring
No.
water on it at every aid station and still had, but that was that experience of it didn't go according to plan and I still made it happen. And
Yeah.
I thought, well, what if we just are really careful and do make it go according to plan? And right. And you have to find that difference of like, am I working and thinking the whole time? And can I separate myself from that? And I think that's where like knowing RPE and having a really good understanding of what's happening in your body without, you know, this every mile
Yeah.
will save you. If you know what that feels like and you don't have to keep checking your watch. And even if you're a little off, fine. Go
Yeah.
off a feeling. Does it feel good? Are you trying to hit a certain pace? Great. Watch your watch. But
Yeah.
at some point you have to separate from the work and enjoy and then find that balance too of checking in with your body and going, what are my hips doing? Am I
Body
driving
scans are huge.
knees forward? Am I pulling them back? Push your knees forward, girl. Like those, yes, body scans are crucial to having
Yeah.
a good day because the second you get tired, the first thing that goes out the window is your form.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Love it. Well, I was
yeah,
going to ask for a piece of advice, but I think you just gave some really awesome advice there about just, yeah, like check in with yourself. It's worth it to spend the time to improve your running IQ from the beginning to make sure that you can develop this like long-term relationship with running. I think it helps you out, like you said, in more than just the distances that you're originally like planting a seed for and training for. It can help you across your entire running journey. So I think that's an awesome piece of advice there. Yeah.
totally. The body scan is crucial. I always kind of challenge people to try runs without music or a Peloton class or something like run
Mm-hmm.
with the world, experience the world, like pick up on a few things. What did you hear? What did you smell? You'll learn a lot about yourself too in that moment because you're going
Yeah.
to have really uncomfortable conversations with yourself. Again, it's this concept of the things that happen in the 6 inches between your ears. That's your
Yeah.
brain. What are you thinking about? What is hard? Can you negotiate that with yourself without getting distracted by a song? That was really crucial for my training. And I'm really glad that I had that experience of it, like a really unclouded first marathon. That was my
Yeah.
goal. The best piece of running advice I ever got is one that I always give to people, especially musicians. And
Yeah.
it's kind of relevant to that. One of the big racers in my life is a colleague. She's a violinist in Chicago, and she is outstanding. She podiums Ironman for her age
Wow.
category. I mean, she's incredible, and she's a fierce athlete. And early on in my running, I was getting in my feelings about a run, and it didn't go well. And oh, how do I get back? And I remember she messaged me and she was like basically like cut it out. And I was like, what? And she was like, you're a smart musician. Treat this like rehearsal. You
Mm.
go to rehearsal, you sing some right notes, you sing some wrong notes. Take notes. Know what you did wrong and do it differently the next time. When you leave rehearsal, you're not getting butt hurt for hours. So don't do that with running. Treat it like rehearsal. It's practice for the race.
Yeah.
And that's so true. We talk about, training as the race and the race being the celebration of training. And like I think like anyone who's like musical or theater inclined, or even if you're not, like treat it like practice.
Yeah.
Treat your training run like practice and take your notes. Don't get in your feelings about it. It's not getting in its feelings about you.
Yeah.
Um, but running will give you what you give running. And I think it will love you back if you
Yeah.
love the process. So that I mean, that's the best piece of advice I got is the one I give, which is get less personal about it if it's a working day.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. Huge. Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap up with some of our fun questions. I always like to
Yeah.
end with fuel and shoes. I always give the disclaimer that with fuel and shoes, obviously this is your own journey, so please try anything and everything when it comes to fuel. Find out what works best for you. Same thing with shoes. Please go to your local running store and get your feet measured. Find out what's best for you. But what have you loved for fuel over time?
So I am a sensitive tummy girl. I am
Yes.
lactose intolerant, and there is always lactate in my purse. And of course, people start laughing when the lactate comes out, and they're like, "Oh, it's serious tonight. She's having dairy."
Yeah, we're having a
Um,
party. Here we go.
yeah, the lactate is on the table. So I knew that like the gel experience was going to be different for me. And at that point, I was like, you know what? We heard Morton's neutral. Go that route, and I
Hmm.
really had a great time training with Morton this summer because it never upset my tummy. I did not have any GI distress, and I felt adequately fueled
Yeah.
all summer. And I consider it fuel what you eat before your long runs. That's really crucial. And I have the same thing I eat before every single long run, and it is what I ate as a child. And I feel like it's very much healing my inner child to do it this way, a chocolate chip bagel with peanut butter.
Love that.
Because you
Yeah.
get the sugar, you get the carb, you get the PB. It's what I had on marathon morning. It's what I had many, many, many mornings. And I would go to the bagel shop every other week and get my bagels. And yeah, chocolate chip bagel with peanut butter. I'm a sweet bagel
Sounds
girl.
great.
Yeah, it's
I don't know if
great.
I've ever had a chocolate chip bagel, but that sounds amazing. With peanut butter, it sounds like a
Oh,
Reese's cup. I'm in for that.
mm-hmm.
I
And
love
then
a cinnamon bagel, so I know I love a sweet bagel, so I'm sure that's on next. Yeah.
cinnamon raisin toasted with butter and a little sprinkle of
So
sugar.
good.
Wow. I mean, I'm a toast girl too, but I definitely needed like the bagel for the fuel for the long runs.
Yeah.
Of course, post run, it's a bag of chips, usually like Fritos, a large Coke from McDonald's. I
Yum.
mean, I'm so serious about that large Coke. Um, Shoes.
Yeah.
I have currently a three shoe rotation.
Hmm.
A daily trainer is the Brooks Ghost. Love the Ghost. I have wide feet, so there's already limited options in terms of like what I can wear comfortably, and like I don't really care about the aesthetic of what it looks like. The shoe for you is going to look like whatever it looks like. Deal with it. Don't get the cute color and
Yeah.
and
Feel
the
overlook for sure.
help me pick a shoe. Pick the shoe that's right for you.
Yeah. Right.
And that part of running influencing I cannot get behind.
Yeah.
My speed shoe. I say speed shoe because it is sort of becoming more of a daily trainer and a
Hmm.
speed shoe for me is the Asics Nova Blast.
Oh yeah, I love those.
Oh, I love that shoe. It is just like deliciously comfortable.
Yeah.
It's very lightweight. I get excellent response and feedback from that shoe, and that shoe is really good at telling you when it needs to be replaced. Or
You could
you put
tell.
on your new pair and you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, feet. I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
And then currently my distance shoe, which I think I'm going to switch up for 26, but what I ran for the marathon is the Glycerin Max.
Very cool.
Of course, wide. So I got men's ones because, they're not super great about every shoe comes in every width.
Yeah.
But I bedazzled my marathon shoes, and
Cute.
that was really fun. I love the cushioning of the Glycerin Max. I think it's a bit intense for a lot of people. It's a little
Yeah.
heavier. Ideally maybe the Nova Blast becomes my marathon shoe. It
Yeah.
works for distance. The nice thing about the Nova Blast is that it's kind of you can do whatever
Both.
you
Yeah.
want in that shoe.
Yeah.
Really, you can do daily speed or distance if you're smart. Um,
Right.
I like having a multi-shoe rotation because I know when I put on that pair of shoes what work I'm doing. Again,
Yeah.
it's this dedication to like the craft and the focus as much as it is having fun. Because then I
Yeah.
lace up that pair of shoes. I'm like, all right, we're doing this today. Let's go.
Yeah. Love that. Very cool. I love it. And then I guess what's coming up next for you? That's my last question is just what are we training for right now? What's on deck?
We are just starting a training cycle for the Chi-Town Half, which is the first weekend in April. I am very committed to no marathons in 2026, which is a begrudging thing to say because, of course, I think with the first marathon, you really kind of figure out if it's like a one and done
Yeah.
or
Or
if
you
you're
get the itch and
perhaps a marathoner.
yep.
It was, of course, the latter for me. I had a feeling it was going to be that way, but of course, you never know what's going to happen on race
Yeah,
day.
yeah, for
So
sure.
I am a marathoner. I'm taking a year off of marathons to get faster. So I'm going for a half PR. I have 2 half marathons so far this year, April and then September, and then a 5K PR, which might kill me. But if you see me running every 5K that Chicago offers this summer, just like sending every other weekend, just mind your business.
Mind
I have
yours,
a goal.
yeah.
I have a goal. But yeah, upcoming next is the Chi-Town Half. It ends with Portillo's. You get to choose a Chicago dog or an Italian beef to have at the finish line.
No, you can't ask for
That's
anything
as good
better.
as it
That's great.
gets.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like my
That's
bag of
awesome.
chips. Yeah. So so looking forward to that.
Amazing. Cool. Well, looking forward to seeing how everything works out. And if anybody wants to follow along with you in your journey, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram. It's underscore Annie Raz. There's like 3 Z's. I think it's Annie Raz on TikTok. I captain and the founder of the Chicago Hot Girl Run Club. So if you're
Cute.
a woman in Chicago that wants a running community, we're pretty cool. And we are the
Love it.
first all women's dedicated, radically inclusive run club in Chicago. And that's Hot Girl Run Club Shy. So that is a place too. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'll make sure to link your run club also in the show notes so people can find you there. And if you want to share any
Awesome.
resources around the charity that you train for, I'm more than happy to throw some resources in there too if you want to email it over to me. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. It was great getting to know you a little bit. I think your story was awesome. I'm looking forward to all these big goals you have this year.
Thanks. It was super fun to be here. Again, it's been interesting to see other people's stories, what aligns with mine, what is different. You know, we all
Yeah,
come with background and context, and what's important is being true to yourself. Don't
absolutely.
don't pick up all this noise and think that it has to be your experience too.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, love it. Thanks so much again.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok. That's at myfirstmarathonpod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at tay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.